welcome to StephSellsHomes podcast. And today we are filming episode number 6, all things STR, with the ninja of STRs right now. And a client of mine, good friend of mine now, that I've really come to have a lot of respect for, and it's an honor to have him here today. So Rafa, if you don't mind introducing yourself, thank you again for your time and for joining me today.
Yeah, hey Stephanie, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. My name's Rafa. I do short-term rentals in Southern California. I focus on the arbitrage rental model more than anything. I've been doing it for about 4.5 years now. And basically for those listening don't know what that is I lease out apartment buildings or houses, and then I get them furnished and I use them as short-term rentals, and I rent them to people per night at a premium and make money on top of it. So there's a spread between the rent that I pay and the daily rate that people pay me. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Wow. Well, thank you for coming and thank you for joining me. I'm really excited. I hope that, everybody who's listening today, the purpose of this podcast is so that we can bring knowledge, share a lot of Rafa's knowledge and his accomplishments within the short-term rental industry. And he's hopefully going to help us, after the end of this podcast, go out there and see how we can go on and get our own short-term rental and start with our first one. I know I'm a fan now of the short-term rental space, and I'm constantly asking him questions offline. So a little backstory on Rafa and how you got started. I was listening to one of your other podcasts and I followed your journey, and we're working together. So I am curious, and I would like for other people to also know and understand how you tapped into the rental arbitrage, because most people can't even fathom and don't even know that you can sublease a property, let alone multiple properties, right? So How did you even tap into the space?
So when I first started, I was actually trying to get into some form of investing, some form of real estate investing. And at the time, I had some money saved to buy a house. And in SoCal, as you know, houses are just extremely expensive. And this was 5 years ago, and I found a house. It was like $450, and that's even cheap, right? At that point, it was a little bit cheaper than normal house prices. And I did the math, and doing the math, I was like, wait a second, if I buy this property, I'm going to be either negative cash flow or I'm going to be making like $100 a month. And I had to put down like almost 20 grand or something like that. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. But at the same time, I was learning, listening to podcasts, researching, going to forums, all of that. And I read about short-term rentals, and I heard about short-term rentals, and I was like, wait, what is that? And I didn't know that it was, kind of like Airbnb. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what that is. And I kind of liked the idea of it, and I started researching into it. And I found out that you can actually go out and talk to people, lease their property, take it over as a regular tenant, and then be able to furnish it and offer it to people per night. You don't actually have to own the property, and you can do it with a lot less money. And I was like, wait a second, I can do that? And so when I found out about it, I went and did the research, and sure enough, I mean, the numbers panned out. I took the 20 grand that I had, actually less, and I opened up a 2-bedroom apartment. That 2-bedroom apartment, instead of me buying that house that I owned, which is great, right? You get the benefits of appreciation, owning property, all of that. But the 20 grand, instead of me owning, I opened up a unit, and that unit, instead of me doing negative or $100 or $200 in cash flow, was doing about $1,500 a month, maybe $2,000 a month. I mean, the first 2 months I outdid the revenue that I thought I was going to receive from that 2-bedroom apartment, and I was sold. Once I saw how much money it was bringing every month, I was in 100%, and I went in and I got 2 more, and then from there, 9 months later, I had 15 units, I think it was, and I was all in.
Wow. So you just basically took on someone's mentorship, followed what they were doing, and saw the vision, saw the cash flow, the potential cash flow and opportunity, and said, you know what, I'll put buying the house on the back burner for now, and we'll focus on how to multiply that money and then come back to buy the property, right? Which is what we'll talk about, in a little bit. But that's awesome. I mean, the fact that you saw that ahead of time. Now, I'm sure it was scary to jump on the first one, because I know it's easy to see someone doing it, right, and have a system for it, but then you actually going on to do your first one. Can you give us an example and walk us through that process, right? Like, who is part of your team? How do you get boots on the ground and actually get your first rental arbitrage up and running. Like that right there is gold, right? If you can share that pathway for someone who's listening and who's thinking of getting into that space, what does that first, acquisition look like?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? When I first started like learning about it and doing research, I actually found someone who was doing it. They were selling like a little mini course of videos, and I bought them. And so I learned kind of like the beginning steps of like what to do right, what not to do right, how to handle it like as a business, not as a side gig, how to add specific systems, what to look for, what not to look for. So that helped a lot. That was probably, thanks to that, it was one of the biggest helping factors that actually got me through saying, hey, I can actually do this. Because if not, I would have just put it on the back burner and never actually done it, right? I actually still put it on the back burner. When I watched the videos from this mentor, and I was like, oh, wait a second, that's very doable. Like, I know what this is. It's not that difficult. I got all these like preset notions in my head that I was like, oh, it's really hard, or I can't do it, or it's too much work. I was like, this is super easy. And so, but even then, I was still working, and I put it on the back burner. It took me about 6-7 months to actually get started on it, right? And my business partner at the time, she was the one that was like, hey, I got us this location. Go talk to them. And I was like, okay, well, if it's already set up, I'll go talk to them. And I went and I showed up to this apartment complex, and I kind of gave them this pitch. I was like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing short-term rentals. We're doing corporate housing in this building. Do you allow corporate leases? I gave them kind of a little speech, or like a little script. And so actually, long story short, they had told me no a couple times, and then finally I went to this other one, and they finally said yeah. But I got lucky because at that building, they were actually rehabbing it. But to go back to your question, the whole point I'm bringing at is, had I not gotten that knowledge beforehand of actually doing the research and knowing what to do, it would have been very difficult, or it would be very hard for me. I went through a lot of no's before I got that first yes. I probably would have gone to even more no's to get that yes. That yes that I got would have probably been a no, and I would have had to keep going, right? And so the process is very simple. Like what I do now, well, it's very different now, but I look for specific locations. Like I know all the buildings in my area that are for rent, apartments, houses, not houses, but mainly like small complexes, anywhere between a 4-plex to like a 10, 12-plex. I have people, so my specific team here, because I operate in my own backyard. And so I don't have to have like a full-time person there managing for me. I do most of the work with the systems I have in place, right? A really important person in my team is obviously number one, my cleaning staff. I have 3 different cleaning teams, and they're the ones who are basically my first eyes on every unit. When they come in, when a person checks out, they look at the unit, they see what it's about, and they see how the guest left it. Is it a mess? Was it left in good shape? Whatever the case may be. The second person is what I call a runner. They go out and they do all my little tasks. Like, let's say a door lock ran out of batteries. Okay, go out and run out there. And I pay them per job. So I pay them something like 20, 25 bucks. I don't even remember off the top of my head. For every job that they do. Hey, the blender broke. The guest is asking for a blender. Can you go deliver one? If I can't get it delivered immediately, she goes out or he goes out, right? I have 2 people that do it. And so whoever's available at that time. But they're also part of my cleaning team. So since I don't give them full-time work, they're also cleaning. And then whenever something arises, they go out and handle it, right? I also tell them that sometimes things at night will happen if they're available. If they tell me yes, then I can call them. Like actually, I don't even get involved anymore, because the third most important person on my team is my virtual assistants. So now they deal with all my guest communication. They deal with all of my my customer service. Whenever a guest has a problem, my VA sees the message, then my VA goes and contacts my runner or the cleaning team or whoever the case may be at that point. And they go, hey, this person needs, I don't know, a broom, or the mop is broken, or they're requesting a vacuum. They go out and they get it delivered, right? The whole communication happens within them. That way the guest is happy and I don't have to get involved, right? Those are my 3 most important people on my team. Does that answer it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I wrote them down. So cleaning lady, your runner, and your virtual assistant, which in our world, if any realtors are following us, I know realtors are also looking to always get in the short-term rental space. That would be like our lender, our transaction coordinator, and our VA, right? Or that inside sales rep that's handling all of the lead flow coming in and all of the outbound info. Now, another question when it comes to managing, and that was a very good explanation of the process. It kind of really simplified it for me. we as realtors also have access to data, right? Through the MLS, we can see recent sales, we can see information about the homeowners, past financial information, I mean, tax information. I'm assuming you guys take all of this into account too when renting them out, you know, trying to figure out the stats on daily rates, seasonality. Do you recommend any platforms? Do you use any platforms for that data access, or what does that look like as far as tracking and measuring on the back end,
Yeah,
aside from this process
you mean
now?
you mean prior to acquiring a location, right?
Either prior to acquiring the location and also during, right, to sustain them, because I've heard you in other spaces talk about like Air DNA, right?
Yeah.
Maybe giving us a breakdown of what that, you know, all entails and how that is incorporated into your business model.
Yeah. So before you get the location, you obviously got to make sure that it works for you, right? You got to run your numbers. You got to make sure do the analysis, right? The initial analysis, kind of like you guys do comps. Well, we got to do comps ourselves. We got to make sure that the nightly rate that we need to get to make money is the nightly rate that market will demand. That we're able to get that nightly that amount. If I'm renting out a unit for $3,000 and I want to make $1,000 profit, well, there's $3,000 for the rent. Then the utilities is about $400 with internet and everything and resupply and stuff like that. And then you got to make $1,000 on top of that. That means you're looking at $4,400 a month, right? Divide that by 30. I don't know what that is. Probably about 150, 4,500. Let's just go with 4,500 at 150, right? So if you're doing 150 a night for 30 nights, that's 4,500. That will give you your $1,000 profit. Can that market? Will people pay 150 a night for that specific location? For that specific apartment? Is it designed the way that it should be designed for that, right? All that comes into play. And in order to know if that market's doing even close to that 150 mark, you got to do the research. Well, what are other locations in the area they're doing? Okay, well, this unit is doing 150. Well, how does it look? Will it look how my unit's going to look? Or is it like this really high-end luxury property and I'm getting this low D-class style property, right? All of that has to go into place. And yes, there's websites like AirDNA. There's... the other one is called Mashvisor. And those are the big ones that will give you kind of an understanding of what that location, the numbers look for on a monthly basis or on a nightly basis, right? You pay per market and they give you the data. Another way you can do it is just by checking on Airbnb. Just check those other locations to make sure that those other locations look like yours and see what they're charging and how occupied they are, how vacant they are for the next 2 to 3 months. That'll give you a very good understanding if that location where you're going to is going to make you money, right? When AirDNA tells me I'm going to make 140 a night, I love it because it's always the base number, like the lowest, not the base number, the lowest possible number of what I'll make per night. I know that I can probably do 190, depending, because, well, number one, I've been doing it for a long time, so I can apply certain fees or certain pricing tools or certain pricing strategies, techniques, etc., to raise that price up, right? Once you start operating, though, in order to be able to keep that nightly rate going, to know if you're going higher or lower, number one, you just got to test it out. You just got to test out a number, right? Pick a number. You literally, like they say, just pick a number out of the blue, right? And choose a number and say, okay, this is what I want to make, 150. If your number was 150, start at 150. And if you're booked all the time, then you're too low and you start going up, right? If you're not getting bookings at all, you might need to go down, or you might need to look at something going on with your listing or something's going on, right? But that in order for your property to be priced correctly, you got to use a pricing tool. And I use what's called Price Labs, and that pricing software basically is called dynamic pricing, kind of similar to what like an airline does, right? When you ever go and buy a flight, it'll be different at 11 a.m. from 2 p.m. to tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's constantly changing because they know what days sell for what or what times sell more. So it's an algorithm. Well, Price Labs does the same thing on a nightly basis. If you say, hey, I want to average out 150 a night, they'll take that into consideration, and then they'll tell you whatever the slowest day of the month is. So if it's Monday, that Monday will be at 97 or $100, but Saturday might be $200-300, right? And it prices for you, so it knows what your average is going to be, and you have different nights at different rates so that you stay fully occupied. Hopefully that answers it.
Wow. Yeah, no, that gave me a great overview of how you guys, what the strategy is prior to like you said, acquiring the property. And so with that, let's say once you've acquired the property, now we've got to look at a specific avatar. I know some people who are in the short-term rental space like to focus on, people like Jesse focus in the corporate, like nursing world, where they assist a certain type of avatar. How important would that be when tapping into the short-term rental space? And that might be a little bit too advanced for people who are first starting to, but how important would it be if you were to start, starting off with an avatar or a specific niche within the short-term rental space?
Actually, it's probably the most important thing. Anybody who wants to get started, look, it's important to just get your foot in the door and get started, right? If you get approval for any type of location, take it and go, and then you'll figure out who your customer is after that. But I say it's the most important thing, because if you come in knowing the type of customer that you're wanting to attract and serve and house, then it's going to answer all your other questions, right? How will it be furnished based on that customer? What type of property will you acquire based on that customer? How much will you charge based on that customer? All of that comes into play based on the customer that you're trying to get. For example, if you're trying to house large families of 6, 7, 8, let's just say a family of like 8 people, right? You're not going to go get a 1-bedroom apartment, and they're probably going to pay you more than $150 a night because they're sleeping 8 people, right? So if you're trying to get $250 a night and you're going for a 1-bedroom apartment to house 8 people, it's not going to work, right? Instead, you're going to go for a 3-bedroom house that might get you $300 a night so that you can sleep 8 to 12, 8 to 16 people, right? So you always got to pick your customer. For example, my buddy Jesse, right? He focuses on travel medical professionals. Well, he knows that that's his customer. His customer, he gets the contracts from the recruiters, the nursing recruiters. He gets the contracts from them. Well, they pay for his nightly rate. The nurse doesn't even pay it. It's the recruiter who pays it. Well, he knows that they pay a premium because they have a per diem that can get paid out. So that's his customer. He goes after them, right? And so he might make anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 a month, because he focuses specifically on them. And he's doing, 2-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom houses, because those are the type of locations that customer demands. Make sense?
100%. I mean, even for us as realtors and entrepreneurs, knowing your avatar and that specific audience that you're speaking to. When I'm on Instagram, I know who I'm speaking to. I focus primarily in the ADU space as a realtor, because I think that with the shortage of housing, it's just only right to use that strategy, right? And we'll talk about that too. I'm going to tap into that space, and I'll kind of pivot. I think he's definitely dropped a lot of good nuggets, and one thing that he's showed me is that it always just helps to pay for that experience. It pays, it helps to pay for that additional data and have access to data, like having access to different websites. And I'm sure now you're getting more bookings besides VRBO and Airbnb, direct bookings, right, through your site, which I'm sure is the ultimate goal for people in the STR space, is to have those direct booking and avoid outside fees, from third-party vendors, just like we do from Redfin and Zillow. We don't want to have them, take our cut all the time if we can get direct leads. And you can do that by, like he said, being specific with the avatar, being specific with who you want to service, give them a good customer experience, and so that they want to come back, and they also want to share that experience with with their family members and their friends, and share that they had a great experience with you. So talking about experiences, we're going to kind of pivot here, and we're going to talk about a lot of good things that are happening right now between Rafa and I. I'm honored to be the realtor that's helping him with his first investment property. He's obviously proven himself within the rental arbitrage model, and I can only tell you that he's going to take off from here on, right, with his first investment property. And so one of the things that I was curious about, and I figured why not ask him on the show, how has your experience been when working with Stephanie and my team, right? Working with myself and my team. I know that you have a lot of knowledge within the rental space, and you deal with homeowners, and you have tough conversations, and you have negotiation skills under your belt. But how is it truly trying to buy a house right now in LA or Riverside County, just anywhere in Southern California? Share your experience for those listening who want to tap into the space. And yeah, the mic's all yours.
Yeah, listen, it's been awesome. You guys are awesome because I'm very like, I like to work with people that, I don't know, to put it bluntly, who know what they're doing, right? And who won't get me involved in all the little details. It's kind of like the way I run my business. I don't like to get involved in the small details I don't need to be involved in. I like to run my life that way also. And every time there's been an issue, like, you've been on it, right? I don't need to be bothered for the little things that I don't need to be bothered for, because you're able to handle them because you have the experience, you know what you're doing. You've been able to help through everything. And when I have questions, and I've had some stupid questions, right, where I'm like, I don't know, like, I've never bought a property before, right? And now for this house that we're about to buy in Riverside, where we're moving into and everything, it's like I never knew the process for even like going and opening escrow, or like sending money to escrow, or like the deposits, or like nothing. I had no idea of it at all. I gotta tell you, like, it's kind of a pain. Like, it really is a pain. And for someone that doesn't know, it could be a little bit overwhelming. And if it wasn't for you guys, like, I probably would be overwhelmed, because you've answered all the questions. You've been super like on point. You're super descriptive about everything. So I really do appreciate that, because I mean, even for the dumbest questions, you're like, no, listen, like, you've always had an answer. You've been helpful about it, and you've walked us through every step of the process. So it's been really good, man. I have nothing good to say. I mean, I'm going to continue to work with you for all the other properties. I'll tell you that much. So, you know.
That's awesome. And honestly, guys, this is not scripted. He's not lying. We became really good friends. I mean, I met Rafa briefly in New York. We kind of met, you know, we crossed paths, but I was following him on Clubhouse. We met on Clubhouse. We made the connection. We have a lot of things in common. We both have our podcast shows. We both are here to support each other. We both have Latino background. And so it's more than just buying a house. It's the connections that you make, the relationships that you make with people. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, look, there's a reason why I decided to work with you, okay? I have friends who are realtors. I
Tell
have
me the truth.
People, like, look, there's people that I know who are realtors, and I've never
I know
worked
you
with
know
them
a
before,
lot
okay?
of realtors.
Yeah.
A lot of realtors.
I reached out to certain people, and to me, it's who actually provided the best value, the best service, or who actually went out of the way to actually try to help me, and you were that person, right? I reached out to a lot of people. I'm like, hey, I'm looking to buy a house, and they're like, okay, cool. And that was it. And it was like, okay. Or like, hey, I'm looking to buy here. Can you send me some stuff? And I wouldn't hear from them for like a week, like they forgot or something. And I'm like, okay. Or they would just send me generic stuff that I can find online. And I'm like, yo, like, that's not what I'm looking for, right? I didn't know you that. Like, we just had met barely, right? We talked on Clubhouse a couple times. We actually met, remember we met in Long Beach, and then we met in New York. And then like, we didn't actually like talk. We weren't like hanging out or anything like that. I wasn't like actively looking, but I said, hey, I'm actually looking to buy something here. Can you help me out? And you're like, yeah. And right away, you sent me everything in a big old list. And I was like, cool. And it was funny because I wasn't even actually looking to buy something off of like what you were sending me. I was trying to buy a friend's property. And I was like, hey, and what really got me to be like, okay, she's awesome. She's helpful. Because I was asking you random questions about a property that you had nothing to do with. And you took time to help me. And I was like, oh, I can appreciate that. Like, that to me is like, it means a lot, because a lot of people won't give you their time to be like, hey, this is how it has to go, or this is the way it's got to work, right? But you were willing to do that, and that property fell through, and then you found us a property, and then we're closing on that property, right? And it came from you coming from a place where you were helping me, even though it might have not even been anything in it for you, because the property that we were going for might not have been yours, right? I don't know, because I don't know if that's how it works or not, but you know.
Yeah, you're right though. You have a better understanding of the process now. I wouldn't have been part of it, but I'm so grateful for that, because I know that you're right. Your intentions were to buy an off-market property, and that's literally what we were going to gear towards. But you know, I trust the process, and I also do what I say that I'm going to do. And a lot of realtors, we have a very bad rep in our business because we don't say what we're going to do. You know, a lot of people overpromise and under-deliver. And I'm the type that I feel like reputation's everything. You know, Rafa on the flip side also has helped me understand a lot of the short-term rental space. And I have clients to this day. I texted him another property last week. Had another client who wanted to sublease their their unit. And I'm like, okay, let me text it, let me shoot it over to Rafa, because now there's a genuine connection. We are here to help each other, support one another. And I honestly was just grateful that he was reaching out to me when it came to real estate services and needs. And he knows he can shoot me a text whenever he needs comps or whatever the case may be. I consider myself to be part of his team as well now, within his rental, empire that he's building, because it's not the first property that he's buying. I think that maybe another reason why he decided to work with me too is, and he knows that I pitch the ADU option, and the ADU strategy all day long. So I also took the time to educate him throughout that process. That wasn't something he was even aware of, and it's under anybody's radar really, because I get a lot of clients. I talked to two yesterday. They want to buy 2 units, 4 units. I'm like, you're not gonna find that here in LA, in Southern California. There's like 1 duplex, in all of Long Beach, or 4 at the most. But what we can do is we can look at properties from a different angle and look at them from an ADU perspective. How can we add additional space? How can we convert, existing space? And he took on that advice too. Like, he's just an action taker, a go-getter, somebody that literally will implement things ASAP. And he's very good at delegating, and that's a skill, because most people don't want to delegate. Most people want to have control over the entire process, and that, honestly, you shoot yourself in the foot many times. So I'm proud to say that Rafa is not only going to buy his first investment property with me and my team, but we're also going to help him with that ADU. And he has other plans, I'm sure, with the short-term rental space and ADUs and investment. But it's just so nice to see it all come together, and I can't be more proud of you. Like, seriously, man, I'm grateful. And we have, like I said, I met his family. His family is super dope, super humble. I felt like I was helping my dad, and Rafa and I had these conversations, because it's tough talking to Mexican parents. They can be very close-minded. And so for him to come this far, and knowing some of our backgrounds and things that we had to overcome within our family industry and mindset, and rewiring our thoughts and our limited beliefs, Rafa's a great example that you guys can literally do whatever you guys want. It's just a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people, making those connections. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Do you have anything else you want to share?
No, I appreciate all the kind of words you're saying, honestly, dude, because talking about the delegating thing, that was a learned skill. Let me tell you, I was not good at it. It's constant practice and giving away the control of certain things and letting people make mistakes and being okay with those mistakes. I heard a quote the other day. Gosh darn, I don't remember who it was from. It was really good. And they said something like, there was some guy, I think it was from IBM, some old CEO of IBM or something like that. And I don't know the exact quote, but he said something like, there was an employee who lost them $600,000 in some business transaction, and he goes, and the CEO goes up to him and he goes, hey, like, this employee just cost like 600 grand for the business. Like, we got to let him go. And the guy turns around and he goes, why would we let him go? It just cost me $600,000 to train him. Right. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Right. Because it's part of delegating your job. You allow people to make mistakes. They learn from the mistakes and they don't make the mistakes again. That's how you're able to take people, make them better, and have them work for you at their best. Right. People make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes, right? I make costly mistakes. I just don't have to respond to anybody. But when people respond to a specific person and they make a mistake, I hate when people are afraid to make mistakes, man. It really ticks me off, because it's like, dude, make a mistake, please, because if you make the mistake, I know you're going to learn from it. Now, if you don't learn from it and you keep doing the same thing over and over, that's a problem. But if you make a mistake and you learn from it and you become better, you're making my life easier, because now that problem will never happen again. Right? That problem will never happen again, and I don't have to worry about it ever again. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I just wanted to share that because I thought that was really, really important, because it's a mindset thing too.
It really is. It's a limited belief. It's a fear mentality. You don't want to like throw yourself into the situation, but I'm a big believer that sometimes we have to throw ourselves into these, deep conversations, tough negotiation places, and we'll make errors. And, one thing that I don't have a problem with is delegating. What I did have to learn with time was that I need to have my shit together before I delegate. So I learned that there's a lot of personal development that comes into play, because you need to know how to communicate effectively according to personality type. People learn differently, and also allowing them, like you said, to go through those mistakes and being okay with it. And then also, and like looking at it internally and saying, okay, well, how can I, facilitate this from not happening again? Maybe I did, not a good job explaining it this time around. I need to document my stuff better. So one thing I do with my VAs too is I pre-record now, and I'm getting better at recording and really like walking them through the process and sending them the video. And if they have any questions, then they can call me, but at least that'll eliminate the amount of questions that they have after watching the video, right? And they're watching me do it. So and it speeds up the process, because if it doesn't work out with that VA, I've had it happen, then I already have those videos pre-recorded for the next one, right? And it's a system that's in process that I can repeat over and over, and if we have to make some changes, then we have to do it, but it's part of the process. You can't be scared to not want to delegate.
Something really important that I don't want to get sidetracked, so stop me if you want, but there's something that you said where you're like, okay, when you're training your VAs, or learning how to set the expectation is what I'm trying to get at. You got to learn how to set expectations with anybody who's working with you or around you or underneath you, whatever the case may be. We had an example the other day where we gave a task to somebody, and they did an okay job, right? I'm not going to get into the details of the task, but we handed the task to them. They did an okay job, but we weren't happy with it. And a normal person, and I am a normal person, right, could have been like, because I was like, well, I'm not happy, let's find someone else. But then I was like, wait a second. Did we set the expectation of exactly what we wanted and how we wanted it to get done? Or did we just say, hey, here's the job, figure it out, right? If you don't give the expectation and the direction of how you want something done, that person doesn't read your mind. They don't understand what you're trying to get done. They're going to take it how they see it and do their best up to how they think things need to get finished, right? With my VAs and with people who I've trained, even with my cleaning staff, I used to be like, okay, here's the apartment, clean it, thanks. And then they would come in and be like, yo, what is this? Like, this looks terrible. Like, nothing staged. Like, you didn't do a good job. And then they're like, well, what do you mean? I just came in and I cleaned it. It's cleaned. And I'm like, my mistake, right? And at first, it wasn't like that. I used to get upset and be like, okay, I need another cleaner. This person doesn't know what they're doing. Or I need another virtual assistant because they're starting to piss me off because they just don't know how to answer messages the way I want them. And then slowly, I was like, wait a second, dude. Okay, you're going to be a boss. You need to learn how to lead, right? You want to be an owner. You need to learn how to manage. So I was like, okay, I started learning, reading, right? Understanding. And I was like, okay, now here's the job. I want you to clean this apartment, and here's how I want it to be done. This is how it needs to look when it's done. Here's the checklist. This is what you need to go through, right? I gave the proper direction. Now, if they make a mistake after I give the proper direction, I address it. Nope, this is what you did wrong. This is what needs to get done. And we're using a cleaner as an example, right? So anybody wants to hire a cleaner, use this as an example. You give them the direction of how you want that unit to be cleaned. You gave a checklist. You gave the after pictures of how you want it to look. You told them that what needs to get wiped. Everything's in detail. Now, you go in and you inspect it and there's a mistake. Don't go off on them and say you did a bad job. You address it. Okay, hey, listen, everything looks good. Here's what you did wrong. Going forward, this can't happen. Please make sure you address it for the next cleanings. If we need to add it to a checklist, let's add it. But make sure this doesn't happen again, right? Or maybe they left, let's just use this example. They left prior guest belongings in the apartment instead of taking them out. Well, hey, listen, going forward, all extra belongings that don't belong in the apartment need to go to storage, right? To our lost and found storage or whatever. And if the next time they don't do it and they leave it there again, you address it. Hey, I told you before this has to get done. You get two. You do it the third time, okay, now it's your problem. Now you're obviously not paying attention. You're not doing the work. You either got to go, because I've already said the direction. I was very clear about the standards. I gave you the job. You know how to handle it. I've allowed you to make the mistake. You didn't learn from the mistake, right? And that's how it's got to be with everybody. And that's a really big learning curve. Like, a lot of people don't do that. Okay, you want me to give you one more example, right? I'll give you an example. We gave a job to an editor, right? And we're like, hey, I want this to get done a specific way. And I was like, here, go ahead. And we just, like, in my head, I'm thinking, this is how I want the video to get edited. I'm thinking it's going to be great when it comes back. I'm going to love it. And it comes back and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, dude, And then I go, wait a second, did we give direction or did we just hand the video and say, hey, this is how I want it to look? Right? They edited it to how they thought was good, not to how I wanted it. I didn't give any direction. So I'm like, yo, we can't be mad about it, right? I was talking to my buddy Jesse. I'm like, we can't be mad about this episode the way it looks. It looks good. It's just not how we want it. But were we clear about it? No. Did we give direction? No. Right? Okay. Well, going forward, let's be clear and let's give direction exactly how we want so that this mistake, or not a mistake, but so that this specific edit gets done a specific way, right? We're not going to go to someone else and say this editor sucks just because they didn't do it the way we thought we wanted it done, as opposed to how they thought it was supposed to get done, right? Anyway, we're getting sidetracked, so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's on point. I mean, I've lived through all of that, and what you just described, that example about the editor, that was also a learning curve for me. I didn't have. I thought that the editor could read my mind, but that's not the case. Most of the time, actually, every single time. VAs, anybody that you're going to outsource and delegate things to, you yourself have to be on point. You've got to have checklists. You've got to have systems. You've got to have processes that can be repeatable, so that you can hand them off to one person or the next, or in Rafa's example, if they can't get it together or you're just not aligned, some people are not aligned, then they've got to go. We need good team players that can perform. I find that explaining to them the process of how their role plays a big part into everybody's, kind of domino effect. I feel that is helpful, but definitely having a video, some sort of checklist, something in writing. And although it might sound like it's a lot of work, I go through this with other realtors and they're like, it sounds like a pain in the butt. Like, I don't want to have to type everything up and create it. You've only got to do it once, right? You do it once, you can tweak it here and there, make some edits, and as technology and your systems advance, then you kind of tweak it along the way, but make sure you have something, because nobody can read your business plan. The way Rafa runs his business is way different than the way I run it. There might be some similarities, and there's some fundamentals that we're talking on that are crucial, but it's still different, right? A VA, if Rafa sends me his VA, she needs to learn a whole new set of systems that are different from Rafa's, new platforms, but they don't know, and they don't know what they don't know is basically what he's saying. So we've got to be better at leading the way and setting the example, and I can also relate to him on that, because I'm on the same path, trying to work on my leadership skills. I have a team that I work with, so even delegating to other realtors on my downline, and they're newer realtors. One of them was part of our transaction with Rafa, and she did great, but it's a reflection of how I work. So I wanted to make sure that she knew and understood that these are my clients, VIP clients, and we're all going to be taken care of, right? And understanding the process, most importantly. So I've been recording this as we go as well, which is a cool thing. Now, going back to, we kind of skipped over the whole ADU stuff and went over these great examples that you gave us, and I took notes on that. But what is your take on the whole ADU strategy now that you got to know me a little better? And I'm sure you see it all over my IG posts, because I'm pretty loud about it, because I believe in it 100%. But give me your take. What do you think about the ADU strategy?
I think the ADU strategy is one of the best strategies anybody could do. Any homeowner should be building ADUs on their house. Every single one of them. I think I sent you a buddy of mine, right? And he's had a house and he's had it forever. And he's like, oh, I don't know, I have this big patio. I'm like, bro, I was like, you can live in this house for free. Have it as an income generating asset on top of living in it for free. I was like, why not build an ADU? And I think it's a no-brainer. Like I told you, as soon as we close on this house, the first thing we're doing is building an ADU, like immediately, right? Granted, we get funding and everything going, but that's the first thing I'm going to do, because the moment that ADU gets built, here's the thing too, though, Stephanie, a lot of people, even with me, ADU, a lot of people think like tiny little house in the backyard, right? Or like a garage style. It's not. It's a full-blown house, right? I don't know if that's...
I don't think a lot of people get it. People think that it's a little back house, that it's a little converted space. But we are talking, most homes here in LA are between 800 to 1,100 square feet, 1940s, 50s built, right? Here in Southern California and even parts of Riverside. you can literally build up to 1,200 square feet in your backyard, up to 1,200. That can be 2 ADUs, that can be a whole new house, because like I just said, most homes are between 800 to 1,100 square feet on average. So if they're sitting on if an 800 square foot home is sitting on a 5,000 square foot lot, you can build a whole entire new house back there, same size, if not bigger. And it doesn't have to be in the back. Actually, it can be on the side, it can be in the front, but it's very common that it's in the back. Not only does it operate like its own unit, it has its own address. I mean, you can separate the entire thing, one unit from the other, right? And create a single family, an SFR, into a duplex or a triplex. So I believe, a lot in that strategy, and that's something that I brought up to Rafa, because with what he's doing, now you take the ADU strategy and tie it to the STR strategy, and that's like, the ultimate like wealth strategy, I think, for generations to come, for our families, for everyone. Like, it's just a no-brainer, because if you look at it from a buyer standpoint, there aren't enough homes out there. You know this, right? It took us a few offers to get that one accepted, and people need to know about this process, because they think that it's very easy, but if it was, everybody would be doing it. You need to have a lot of patience, trusting the process. You also need to make sure that you're working with the right team, that you're working with the right contractors, but it's so doable. I mean, the laws here for ADUs have been so accessible for homeowners because of the lack of inventory. So you're not going to find a house, a duplex or a fourplex. You're better off looking at a home and looking at it from an ADU angle perspective. For people who are looking to sell their house, it's also a great strategy, right? You can build and then sell it for more, or you can sell it with permits and plans, and that shoots up the original list price, right? For investors, it's also a great play. Rather than doing a fix and flip, maybe you want to hold it, maybe you don't want to renovate all of it, and you just want to do some cosmetic touches and convert the garage, and get more for your buck, for just anybody. I mean, I can go on and on with the strategy. Whichever way you look at it, I just wanted to get your take on it, because you're in the rental arbitrage space. So I figured, it'd be nice to hear if that's something you're going to implement this year, and I'm sure we'll be working together on that. But I think it's great, and with the STR model, it's a no-brainer for sure.
Yeah, look, the ADU in the back, if you put it as an STR, will pay for that and your house, right? You're literally living for free, and maybe even making profit on top of it.
Can you give us an example here? And let's say, well, the other thing too, here in Long Beach, STRs, make sure you guys check with your local rental ordinances. Here in Long Beach, we can't really do short-term rentals unless they're 30 days extended, which is 30 days or more. But what would that look like? Let's say I buy a house here in Long Beach with a detached garage. What would that detached garage, about 500-600 square feet, generate for me monthly?
Gold.
Just curious.
If I were to give you a number off the top of my head, about $4,500 a month. Monthly.
Wow.
Yeah. No joke. $4,500 a month monthly. If you find the right customers, I mean, I get them all the time.
And to build it, to build a 500 square foot ADU, it's going to cost you between $120 to $150 roughly. And even if you finance it on a 3 to 5 year financing period, it still makes sense. And that's why I like to talk about it, because when you run the numbers, right, just like you run your numbers before your acquisitions, we run the numbers for the ADU scenario, and it's always like 10x from the long-term rental strategy or just the traditional strategy. So yeah, that's pretty dope. 4,500, that's insane.
Yeah, it's simple. Look, it's just easy. You buy a house for, let's just use my example, the house that we buy, 700 grand, right? We build an ADU, right? The value is going to go what? Let's throw a number out there.
Let's say 200,000.
Okay, so now we're looking at 900 grand, right? Not only did we build 200,000 in equity on something that cost us about 100 to 120, right? Not only that, our house went up $200,000 in value. It only cost us 120, so we've built 80,000 of extra cash on top of our property. But that little house in the back, let's just say we build an 800 square foot house, right? And it's a 2-bed, 1-bath. Even in Riverside, I can probably rent it for about 3,500. I don't know the Riverside market very well, but I'm throwing a random number out there. Let's just say 3,500 at its worst. Okay? at its worst. That will already cover the mortgage of the entire property from the original $700,000 loan. You know what I mean?
Boom.
That's
And
it.
that's the ADU strategy right there. I mean, if that doesn't make you want to buy a house and build an ADU, I don't know what else will, because those numbers alone make sense. And we're not even talking about him renting out the front unit. And what you could do with the front unit is even split that. You know, I had a client who had a single family home, 3-bed, 2-bath with a detached garage. The detached garage is now going to be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, renting out for $2,500. The front house is going to be split. She's going to do a junior ADU, master bedroom and bathroom will be rented out for about $1,200. And then the front house, which is now going to be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, will be rented out for about $2,500, because that's what rentals are going for here in LA. So you do the math, right? $2,500 plus $1,200 plus $2,500. That's a triplex right there.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of looking at the properties from a different angle. And the ADU model is something that's still, it's very popular, but it's still new. So once we have enough ADUs to compare them to, your house is definitely going to go up in value. And like Rafa said, you're renting it out. You're also building equity with time and appreciation, and you're doing forced appreciation by adding to that property, and it's going to work as its own independent unit, and he can go on and repeat that process. He already has a process on the STR side of things, so it's just a matter of now building it and seeing that come to fruition. So that's going to be pretty dope. Yep.
Maybe we should have another podcast in the future once the house,
We
the
have
ADU is
to.
built, and then we go over the
Yes.
actual numbers, because I want to break it. We can break it down to like what the cost of the building the ADU was, because, you know, essentially you can probably get it for free just with the equity of a house, and then once you refi, you get all that money back. So you're kind of burrowing
Exactly.
into an ADU deal, and then it's cash flowing you. I mean, it's a no-brainer, dude. It's a no-brainer. I don't know why people don't do it. They're scared of spending the money, but it's like, if you have equity in your house, you'll get the ADU for free.
Thank you. I think it goes back to that fear mindset. You know, why do people not go for that first rental arbitrage? Because they're scared. Why don't they go for the first investment? Because they're scared. And if you are scared, you know, for those of you guys listening to us, just go with a good team. You know, if you don't have an idea of what you're doing, follow people that are doing the same thing that you want to do, and rinse and repeat. Follow them, you know, pay for their mentorship. Rafa paid for a lot of the knowledge that he knows, and I'm sure that saved him a couple years.
I still buy people's mentorships at this day, just so I can learn and listen. Yeah.
Same. Right now, I'm reading the cash flow quadrant, the new updated version, and they talk about the different types of entrepreneurships, and I see Rafa just going from one quadrant to the next, you know, and it starts by having a different mindset and looking at things from a different angle, being open to the idea that yes, you can own a house, yes, you can have your own rental and have that cash flow, right? And on the next one, I would love to talk about numbers, and then also talk about like your business plan and your business goal. You know, I like to reverse engineer these numbers, and so I'm sure you have your yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, and daily goals, and we can talk about all that, you know, and see how we can help people in the investment world. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, Stephanie, because today at 5 p.m. So every year at the beginning of the year, I do I sit down and I do my goals for the year, my personal and business goals. And this year I was like, I'm gonna get a bunch of friends involved, and so I messaged a bunch of my buddies today at 5 p.m. I'm actually doing a goal setting workshop for everybody, because I want everybody to sit down and be like, yo, do these goals, and we break them down from year to quarterly to monthly to weekly.
Can I sign up for that? Because I got my business plan ready and I got my vision board ready.
If you want to join, you can. I mean, I'm not like, it's not like a public thing. I was just doing it like it's my personal thing.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, for sure. I would love to if I can.
Okay.
If not, you know, count me in for the next one. But yeah, that's so crucial, because having clarity. One thing I'm big on this year is being clear on my intentions. Rafa, I've shared my goals with you. How many podcasts this year? How many workouts? How many homes? How many families I'm going to help? How many ADU projects? Just being clear, having clarity on my goals brings me a lot of joy, because it gives me structure, right? This business you need a lot of grit, a lot of tenacity, a lot of patience to be in the space that we are in. However, it's not impossible. You just got to surround yourself with the right people, have a good mindset, a lot of personal growth. And that's kind of what we wanted to share today. So I hope that a lot of you had a lot of great takeaways. I know I did. And, I've been talking to Rafa a lot within the last 30 to 45 days, and I still got to know him even more today. So, again, I'm super grateful, for your time and for being able to share the space. And cheers to many more investments.
Cheers. Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you for having me. This was awesome. I
It was
love talking
fun, huh?
about this stuff. So yeah.
Me too. I can talk about this all day. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to share? Tell us a little bit about your. Before we leave, tell us a little bit about the big break. How's that going? What do you got going on there? What are some of you guys' plans this year? And where can people kind of get to check out and see more of your story and your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So, the Big Break Show is a podcast that me and my buddy Jesse started. So it started on Clubhouse, right? We were talking about short-term rentals on Clubhouse all the time. So we started our own rooms. We were talking every Monday and Friday. And I was like, you know what? I want to give this info to people outside of Clubhouse because not everybody's on Clubhouse. So I was like, let's start a podcast. And he's like, okay. And so actually it was his idea. I've been wanting to do it forever, but he was the kind of one that pushed me to it. So I said, all right, let's do it. And so we decided to start a Facebook group and then called Airbnb The Big Break, where we talk about strictly short-term rentals. And then I was like, hey, let's do The Big Break Show, a podcast where we talk about short-term rentals, mindset, life, entrepreneurship, pretty much anything that interests us or people we want to talk to about this stuff to inspire and help other people. And that's why we started it. We're, 6 episodes in? We've had some awesome conversations already. We do one every month where we talk about only short-term rentals, and then we'll do one about mindset. We do them about any type of entrepreneurship or investing. We got a lot of stuff coming up. I mean, like some of the interviews that we got coming up are really, really good. So I'm excited for it, It was more to be honest, it's more because I like to talk to people and learn from them. And I figured, why not do it on a recording where other people can pick up and learn from it as well if they want to, right? I mean, that's how I learned. I listened to podcasts. So, this year, to talk about 2022, man, I'm excited. I mean, we're going to do, obviously, the show. I'm starting a YouTube channel. It's going to start about strictly short-term rentals. So I'm going to talk about how to get into arbitrage, like little short videos, 5 to 10 minute long, nothing crazy. I'll probably do one a week starting next week. And yeah, I mean, other than that, my business goals, currently I have 25 short-term rentals. I want to have 65 by the end of the year. So I want to add, quite a bit. Actually, to be honest, I want to do 50. So I need to add another 25, which is very doable. I'm already in the works for another building. And I'm going to buy 12 properties, one a month. I'm working on the first one. Aside from the one that me and you were doing, I'm working on one in Wisconsin as we speak. In different markets as well, because California is just expensive. I can do a lot more with my money. And I started a car rental business as well, as you know, right? That caused problems. I didn't know there was going to be a big problem buying all those cars.
What would we call this? Client testimony, do not ever do in your life, whatever.
Yeah, let's
So,
do it.
Rafa and I, a lot of realtors know that the realtor and lender's worst nightmare is that a buyer decides to go buy a car, right, during the escrow period. That's like one of the biggest no-nos that you could ever do. And there's memes about it everywhere. Well, my friend here, Rafa, decided to not buy one, but buy 7 cars to start his Turo business. And that's a whole other episode that we're going to have to talk about, because he also, aside from short-term rentals, also started tapping into the Turo space, the car rental business. And fortunately, that had nothing to do with, he's overqualified, so it really did nothing to his financials. However, to just the average buyer, don't ever do that. Like, don't ever buy a car or credit card or furniture or anything during the escrow period, because it can affect the deal. Luckily, in our case, Rafa is good to go. He's great at what he does, and he was able to get away with it, but not everybody is in that position. So make note of that.
Can you imagine? Like, I had no idea that you couldn't do that. So I was like, well, I'm just trying to make more money here. Like, what do you mean?
Oh my God,
Had it killed the deal, I would have been pissed. Like, I would have been like, dude, come on.
He was making his money deals, but you know what? We're going to definitely talk offline. I have some investment opportunities that I'm also tapping into outside of the state, in Arizona. I'm looking in Texas as well. So we'll definitely brainstorm and see how we can help each other out, because I want to explore the ADU model in other markets. I'm currently studying like 7 MSAs. Just trying to take it outside of Cali too, because it's very expensive in our own backyard. And like Rafa said, he can take that capital and put it elsewhere and places that would multiply it for him, and it's not as expensive to tap into that space, right? So yeah, a lot of good stuff coming. As you guys can hear, check them out. Check out the Big Break. I'm a huge fan of him and Jesse. They actually hold me accountable to do these podcasts every week, and I'm grateful for that. So it goes back to knowing your environment and knowing that we are a product of our environment. I choose to surround myself with people, like-minded individuals like Rafa and his team, and the people that he surrounds himself with. I'm always following him on these clubhouse rooms as well. So I'm excited for all of us, and yeah, just honestly, I can't say anything else but thank you, and we'll definitely have to celebrate soon because Rafa will be getting keys. And yeah, a lot of more good things to come. I am grateful, and that's it. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Awesome.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much.